Okay, so the class is on, the record is on. So, today we are going to start talking about another essential structure. Okay, sorry. And you just sit there without saying anything. Nice of you. Very nice. You just sit there hopelessly waiting for me to recognize that I forgot to turn this on. Thanks a lot. My goodness. Sorry, and it's on the record now. It becomes like a talk show or some kind of a comedian show. Got to turn on the monitor classroom, and then all the students here just sit there quietly, hoping that I would recognize. Okay, so it's on. All right, you guys can see it now. Oops. Okay. All right. So if you can recall, this is the picture of the stairs in front of the KFC, right? The King Mongkut's food center. Food center sounds a little bit better than food court, right? I think food court sounds horrible. Anyway, you can see, let's say from this picture, okay, let's say from this picture, that's a rough free-body diagram, okay? So I'm just going to start writing something. Okay, it looks like that. So essentially, it's just the three members forming a structure now. Okay, for your say relieved mind, I just put a support. So suppose I unfold this structure into a straight line. I can also draw this, right? Because I can't see anything here. Say, I can just unfold these three members. Now we have three members, 1, 2, and 3. I can unfold them into one basic straight line like this. Okay. Now, after I do this, let's say I cut the free body diagram here. When I cut the free body diagram, I'm not going to ask you because you're going to just, remain silent, as if you are going to the court of law or something. So when you cut the free body diagram, what will show up will be your internal forces, correct? So let's say this is a simple beam. When you cut the free body diagram, what will show up here? I can just draw the free body diagram that I cut. When you cut the free body diagram of your simple beam, you will always have the shear, the moment, and then the axial force, if there is any applied on your structure. So that's a basic thing when you cut the free body diagram. You have been taught that, right? Maybe it's just like too small. Okay. So that. Because without the internal forces, your free body diagram will not be under equilibrium. And likewise, on the right, you will have the same internal forces showing up. Right? So this is essentially the rigid body. You cut the free body diagram through the rigid body. So internal forces show up. Okay, you cut your free body diagram anywhere on the beam, you will always have these internal forces. And let's say these two free body diagram on the left and on the right are just the result of one cut here at the pink line. So we would be able to tell right away that some students here just taking notes frantically. So I'm just going to stop for a minute, okay? time to draw a wonderful picture, right? You know, let me tell you, especially folks at home, because I assume that many of you will study alone. This is based on my life experience. Two kinds of students in the classroom. I mean, two kinds of students who study in the classroom, because let's not talk about the kind who comes in here and then fall asleep, okay, or get distracted by the chat. One would take lecture, and one would just listen. So the ones who takes the lecture very seriously, you tend to miss something. Because while you're trying to write something, you may not hear something that I speak. And the ones who listen, they would, if they are concentrated enough, if they have enough focus, they will get everything. But then afterwards, they don't have anything to read. So it's like a trade-off between the two groups, you know. But you know, you maybe it's not a bad idea to try to help each other out. But then again, we have a little thing called a video, right? I've got that. You can always get up. But anyway, it'd be nice to try to get everything. So now we're done here. Okay. So from this, you can say very easily that the moment here should be equal and opposite to that, right? Otherwise, you don't have the equilibrium. You just cut the free body diagram to pink line. So the moment here better be equal and opposite, correct? The axial force here better be equal and opposite. And the last one, the shear here better be equal and opposite. We have the equilibrium. Do you agree with me? Good. So now let's move on to some other thing. Here, you can say, I'll try to maintain the same color. Here you cut the free body diagram to the rigid body, resulting in this kind of equilibrium. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing, but this time, at this point, I can cut the free body diagram to here. But this is the location where you put two members together to form the system. So we call this a joint. Okay? There are two kinds of joints. One you have been exposed to in statics. You call it the pin joint or hinge, like the system in the truss. And you know the system in the truss, pin joint, no moment. That's moment. Okay. Can you guys read that? No. Thanks for your honesty. It breaks my heart a little bit, but yeah, I can understand. I try very hard to write the word moment, but you know, M L M E N T. Really? You know what? I think it's a problem with the size. Okay. Come on, is it better? All right. So right here, at this joint, we have a joint that is not a pin joint. What we call here is a rigid joint. Guys, read that, right? Guys, read that. Okay. So here, the rigid joint is pretty much like a rigid body. So that means if I cut the free body diagram at the rigid joint, let me move this out of the way. Okay. I can now have kind of cover them. Okay. I can have the free body diagram. Let's somehow put the reaction point. Okay. Now, if we focus on the rigid joint itself, you will know that again we are going to have the axial force here. If this goes to the left, this must go to the right. And then you would have, let's try to use the same color, moment is green. If you have the moment here, you will have the moment here that is equal and opposite. And then of course the shift. So it's exactly the same as you cut the free body diagram anywhere on your structure, but you just happen to cut it at the joint. Notice one very interesting thing here. There. You see, now you can easily solve for the internal force to give you the perfect equilibrium at the joint. You know these forces must be equal and opposite, give you equilibrium. But look at the forces at the end of this member. Let's give it some name. Let's call this member AB. Okay. A, B, C, and E. Okay. Look at the member AB. You should notice that all these forces are neither parallel nor perpendicular to the member itself. So that gives you an extra challenge, because when you want to draw the shear force and bending moment diagram, you need to have the forces that are parallel or perpendicular to your member. Correct? You cannot use this kind of force to try to obtain the shear force diagram or bending moment diagram, because they are not the ones that give you shear moment directly. So we have to use a crazy little thing called trigonometry to rotate force. I know you love trigonometry, that you will study this class again and again and again and again and again and again. Your job, right? So that's essentially the system. And of course, I have said many times before that we need to have the framing system. The stairs is very classic example, because when you build the stairs, no one can build stairs like this. Okay. Because I fall into a straight line. Let's say this is stairs. You can't build stairs up like this. Yes, you can if it's short enough. But the law says if your stairs become long, I don't know how long, you need to have a landing. This is the part we call landing. Read that. Okay. Look, we need to have landing. So at least you're gonna have something like. And let's say when anyone want me to stop somewhere, because I'm just gonna scroll for space to write. Let's say we have talked about the floor before, right? The floor is like this. What we have done the past 2 weeks, and then you have beams, you know, and you have columns and stuff. The floors when you look at it from side view or front view or rear view, whatever, it becomes a straight line, correct? So it's a side view. Your floor becomes a straight line. And when there is a force coming in the lateral direction on your building, on your structure, this side view floor, you can see that it doesn't have anything to fight against the lateral force at all. So we need to have the frame. The system that that members work together. Okay, let's draw it. Just one floor. Or maybe. Now, in order for this to work together, I am going to demonstrate by using a little toy here. So, pray for me. Okay. I'm gonna stop the chat ring and let's hope that you guys are going to see this. Okay. Now it becomes a tangle. I will remove this here, and because we don't have anything to hold the microphone, see, this is pretty much like a roller, but there's no way I can put this straight up. You see, it's gonna have the secondary order effect. It's gonna fall. So I will try to scream into the microphone as usual. All right.
อาจารย์ค่ะ I can't hear you หนูไม่ได้ยินเลยค่ะ
Okay, I know. I understand your English. Okay, don't be afraid. Can you hear me now? So I don't scream enough. So where should I put this damn microphone? Maybe like it's horrible. Or like a joke. Okay, I'll do my best because I only have two hands. But you can see this, right? This pinball, something like this, will represent the hinge joint. So I will try to create a frame. Now we have the two hinge boards. Okay, I'll put the member up here. I'll put the member up here. Okay, it looks a little bit awful. And then we'll try to use a hinge joint. Okay, I don't think you need to hear me now, so I'm just going to put the microphone down a while. You see, I'm doing my best to hold it, but this is exactly the point. In the frame, if you use the hinge joint, you see it cannot stay because it is unstable. Okay, so you can see I cannot even hold it up for 1 second. I'll try to show it to you again. Okay, I'll put the microphone down, so just focus on what you see on screen. It's going to be a miracle if it stays up. So in order to make the frame stable, we are going to have to add something to make the joint become, as we discussed before a moment ago, a rigid joint. So I will try to create a rigid joint by adding this component to make the joint rigid. Okay. Because this is a three-dimensional problem, but it becomes stable right away. Much better. You see? So that means it tells you one thing, that you need to have a rigid joint. And when the joint becomes rigid, it means that the rotation at the joint itself must they all be the same. Because a rigid joint would mean that the angle of the joint, whatever it is, must remain the same throughout the life of the structure. Okay, so when I push it, now it can withstand that. Without the rigid joint, this will not stay. Oh. Okay. All right. Enough of this. All right. So we have this toy here for a long time and forgot that we had it. So let's hope that it demonstrates one point to you, that you need to have a rigid joint in the frame. Another way to avoid the rigid joint is using the brace instead, but it's going to be more complicated. So let's leave it up for the time being. Okay. Any question? So let me okay, go back to I hope that you get some idea about the frame, why we need it, and what does it look like. All right. Install it all the time. Instead of calling it a plug in, we can call it plug out. Anyway, one second. All right. So, if you have a structure that looks like this, basic stable structure with two reactions here and then one here. From that demonstration, you know that this has to be the rigid joint. If this becomes a pin joint, like the truss that you've had, this frame will become unstable. No way that it can stand. Let's say if joint were hinges, you will have this. So that is a hinge there, and then there's another hinge here, another hinge here, and then another hinge there. This will fall under the smallest push of lateral load, ready to go down. And when I ask you to draw the deflected shape, you know, this one will go down like this. Let's use a different color. What color should we use here? Say this one. It's gonna go like that because of the hinge. Right? Just gonna fall apart and go down to the ground in a single minute. But for this, if I give you the a simple beam that here, maybe just cut the beam diagram. Okay, I give you the load. You can guesstimate now. Am I going too quickly? No. Okay. If I give you the load, pushing this beam down, you should be able to sketch the deflected shape. It's going to look like this. That's your beam, right? It has to be a curve, can't be straight. So if I can I rotate this? I can't. Anyone knows how to rotate this? Huh? Like that? Precise? Oh yeah. If I rotate it like that, can you see how your curve should be? Yeah. It does surprise me, but I have never done. Many students who draw your frame will go like this. See that? No, never. Because say when I this also yeah right. Thank you very much. That's your simple beam. See, same kind of support. So when I okay. When I rotate it, you see it's pretty similar because you can draw the hinge, anyhow you like it. So that means this guy should go like this as well, right? That too. Pardon me. Yeah. Correct. So whatever happens at the joint? Remember, we say the joint is rigid, meaning its angle must remain the same. But you can see from this deflected shape. Okay, I just can't stand. It's not gonna come down to the parallel line with the member. No, it's somewhere. It's getting there, but it's never there. So that means right here, at this point, you have the angle. You have the angle of rotation. It's not going to be parallel to this, right? Meaning, if this is rigid joint, let's say if this is a 90-degree angle, this must maintain a 90-degree angle. Meaning, this guy will, come down. And again, right here, because this is also not, at this point, it's also not parallel to the member. So you have a slight rotation, and this must remain 90 degrees if we say that this angle is 90. So this one goes up. Do you agree? Let's say I draw this line. Okay, if I draw this line, some kind of a hook. Okay, and let's say the angle between the hook is 90 degrees. And I move this. I rotate it. Can you see that this hook will, will move like this? The line must come down. And in the opposite side, same hook, I move it like this. So the guy must go up, right? If we say our joints are rigid, they have to remain like that. Just use your imagination. Okay? Just imagine the wiper in front of your windshield. Just it has to remain rigid. So on the left, you see, if you have a rigid body that looks like a hook like this, when you rotate it, the clockwise, the top portion has to come down. And when you look at it like this, another hook, when you rotate it clockwise, the top portion must go up. So when we come back here at the frame, you see the deflected shape must look like this. So that means on the left goes down, on the right goes up. They will try to meet each other in the middle, like that. Okay, it's pretty typical. And when you look at the say the horizontal member, you see it always deflects with two curvatures like that. And now you can see how, without talking about anything, we just try to imagine how our structures will deform under the load without doing any calculation. And if you can see the deformed shape like this, you will be able to anticipate what kind of bending moment you are going to have in the system by just looking at the curve. Because let me point out again that this is essentially the same curvature that you use in your beam. Okay, simple beam, whatever the load is, will deform like this. Can you expect your simple beam to deform any other way? Impossible. And when you can anticipate that this is going to deform, your simple beam is going to deform like this. This is a positive curvature, correct? And you full expect your beam to have positive bending moment diagram because you have a positive curvature without doing any calculation. And when you have a cantilever beam with whatever the load you have on, you can fully expect your cantilever beam to deform like that. There are no two ways about it, right? And this is, of course, your negative curvature. So you can fully expect that for a cantilever beam, if the vertical load is downward, it's always negative curvature. This is something that you should always say, see and feel It's a basic behavior of the structure. Okay. Now, if we mix them up, like with whatever the load is. Now, can you expect what kind of deformed shape your beam will have? You try it yourself first. If you don't draw in the air, draw it in your iPad, iMac, Galaxy, whatever. Okay. Try to feel it. There's no wrong in it. Try to absorb the nature in you, something like that. Okay. Now we can argue that this is it's true that this is the nature that we built. It's a man-made nature, and we are trying to understand this man-made nature, or we actually build it ourselves one day. Can you feel it now? Good. That means you start talking to the structure, right? But it doesn't talk back. Whenever your structure starts talking to you, you better run, right? Get out of there as soon as possible. Any question? Folks at home, any question? I missed 1 week, like students become lazy and don't want to come to campus anymore. So I suppose you guys like online classes, huh? I just want to give everyone options, you know. I don't have to be here, but I'd like to. Because if you choose excuse me. If you choose to have on-site experience, you can have it. Okay. All right. So it's been more than 1 minute, I suppose. So let's say I have demonstrated this to you before, but let's do it again. You see, that is a cantilever point. So there are no two ways about it. It has to come down. It has to have the negative curvature. You can't get away. So now inside, that's a real fun. Can we have, if the cantilever is so long and it's so heavy, would it be so heavy that it will push the entire beam down, that it's able to push this up? Can we have that? Well, of course we can. Let's say if the cantilever portion is very long and the load is very heavy, it's so heavy that it pushes everything down, and the inside portion has to go up. Or let's say maybe the internal portion is large enough that itself can also push this portion down. This is what we have had before, right? And that means somewhere now this structure, you have two curvatures, meaning it contains both positive and negative moment. If you have positive and negative values, somewhere you have zero. And that zero is, of course, the point of inflection. Okay. You know what? It's a little story that you should know. The zero is the number that hasn't been invented after typical integers. Human being would know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nobody starts counting from 0, right? No. So people invented integers first. You can see that the old languages in the world don't have the word 0. For example, Chinese or Japanese. You go ask Japanese people, what's the word 0 in Japanese language? Do you know what it is? 0. Yes, it's 0. Because the word 0 comes long, the number 0 comes long after. People invented integer to count the sheep, count the pigs, count the cows in the farm. So when you don't have cows to count, what's the point? Right? So we human being only invented number 0 after you have the positive and negative integers. 0 is just the number in the middle that separates the two quantities. So likewise here, if you have the positive and negative values, you gotta have 0, like a changing point. So point of inflection is no big deal. It's just the point where a moment is about to change from one value to another. All right. Oh wow, spot on. 20. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop the record so that we can have a break. Any questions? Oh, wow, it's like a slap on your friend's back or just a sound of dropping something. Oh, you broke the chair, man. That's gonna cost you extra. We have the record, so let us put on the record that what's your name? I'm just joking. It's occupational hazard. But anyway, let's stop record. I remember